All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Crypto 101 podcast. I'm your co-host, Bryce, as always, joined by my good buddy across the states, Mr. Brendan Viehman. Brendan, how are you doing over there in the sunny state of Florida?
Not so sunny today, but we are continuing to do great here in the crypto markets. And man, we have a very familiar guest, someone who's been on our summits. He's been on the podcast before. We love having him back. Isn't that right, Bryce?
Yeah, truly a legend in the space, super well accomplished across blockchain, the hedge fund industry, an entrepreneur. This is the co-founder of Braintrust, Adam Jackson, joining us today. Adam, how are you doing?
Doing well, guys. Nice to see you again. I'm, doing as well as anyone can be expected to do in this kind of depressed enterprise economy and kind of shaky crypto world. But lots of fun stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, markets have definitely been, up and down. I mean, they've been range bound. We are struggling to break out above all-time highs. The altcoin market has certainly been lagging. So it's just kind of like the summer doldrums, maybe. Typically, Bitcoin and crypto never do well in the summer. So I don't know. Do you think that's a little bit of what we're dealing with right now? Just some seasonality.
Sell in May and go away.
Yeah, I told myself last year that I was going to do that, and the year before, and I just never do. I don't know. I should have learned my lesson.
It's my new
every single year.
Yeah.
Every single year we come back to this and we're always like, we'll sell in May next year. But then we're like, but it's a halving year. But it's the year after a halving year.
Well, also, the presidential election, it's never
true.
When there's so much in the balance from a policy standpoint, like there is now, people think Kamala's going to do a 180 on crypto from where she has been sitting next to Biden for the last 3.5 years. I wouldn't count on it, right? I don't not to drag us into politics here, but there's a lot on the line here with this election, not just for crypto, for business, for the global economy, for the national economy, and from what I can tell from talking to the 20 or so managers I'm an LP in, my partners at Cambrian, all of our Fortune 1000 clients at Braintrust, like people are on the sidelines, right? They want to see what's going to shake out here. So that I think that's the major kind of headwind we're facing.
I think you're totally right. I mean, one of the things that markets hate above all things is uncertainty. And you see that right now. I mean, with just sort of the presidency and plus all the Senate and Congress seats up for grabs, there's a lot of uncertainty, and kind of what that turns out to be for crypto is just another sort of part of the uncertainty complex. But we're really excited to dive into Braintrust. And everybody should go back and listen to one of our earlier episodes back on June 1st of 2023. We spoke to Adam and got the down low, but a lot has changed. There's a lot of updates, so we definitely want to dive into that. But for folks who are tuning in, let's just do a quick high-level recap. What are you guys doing at Braintrust, and why are you guys the team to be doing it?
Sure. Yeah. So Braintrust, just for anyone who's not familiar, is a decentralized talent network that connects tech talent, so developers, designers, product managers, AI engineers, you name it, with any company that needs their services, contract or full-time. But we mostly focus on enterprise. So it's an enterprise-grade talent network. And it's got, for size and scale purposes, did about 90 million in GSV this year. Should be an uptick for this year. Not, a huge one because its hiring is still slow, but we should, at least break 100 this year. And then we have about almost 1.1 million registered talent members and a couple thousand clients. And so clients, Google, Bank of America, Nestle, Nike, Goldman Sachs, Airbnb, Meta, Etsy, Scale AI, Coke Industries, lots of different big companies that need highly vetted enterprise grade talent. So it's sort of the opposite of like an Upwork or Fiverr, where you can go post a job for $200, you get a WordPress site done. This is like, hey, we need big, heavy software built. We need teams of people, that kind of thing. And so that's where we started. We've grown in that, and then kind of what's new is, about in the last 2 years, We've invested a lot in AI, and obviously can't go without having a buzzword thrown in here, right? But it's certainly like, it's real this time. And so what we've been able to do since we last spoke a year ago is automate the talent vetting. So it used to be like jump on a Zoom interview with someone else in the community, and it was kind of clunky and not super objective. Now it's like AI based screening tools. When you submit an application for a job, AI screens the resume and work history and profile and everything to see if you're a good fit. And then we launched Braintrust Air AI Recruiter, which will actually conduct the first screen for the company. And this is better for clients because they crush a 6-week hiring process down into 2 days. And it's better for talent because talent that just weren't getting a look at a job before that they were qualified for now get that first interview. And the first interview gives you feedback at the end.
Wow.
We can come back to this if you want, but like obviously a lot of skepticism from talent around this. But once people go through it, they're like, wow, that was cool. Like that thing actually listened to me. It's built on LLMs. It understood what I was saying and asked me follow-up questions. It showed me the scorecard at the end. So I actually get feedback. Like it's a very skeptical and then, wow, that was surprisingly cool kind of experience. So we're offering that to Braintrust clients here. We'll come out of invite only in a couple weeks here. And so, using AI to make the marketplace more liquid and drive more transactions.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting to see how AI is being implemented into so many different things. I think when people think of AI, especially when it comes to the blockchain space, maybe they look at like AGIX and FET and everything that's been happening with ASI, right? And they think about that and maybe Chat GPT. But it just goes to show that it's being used so many different ways. I mean, you all are using it for the purpose of hiring and connecting with companies and helping with just all this stuff when it comes to the hiring and onboarding process. And that has nothing related really to a chatbot at all, but here it is being used. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of this interesting rise in what we've seen here recently in AI.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's only going to continue getting stronger. Like, does that help? I guess with the implementation of AI, does that help with like overhead as well? Being able to like save time, save resources? Is that something that you've seen internally?
Absolutely, yeah. We've been able to streamline and automate so many marketplace operations that were just being done manually by people. Now they're done, by AI. I mean, it's been able to cut OpEx costs to operate the network by probably a third in the last year. And then we're using it, coming back to kind of where our token comes in. We have a native token called the Braintrust token that is used for a couple things. One, client fees. So you pay your network fees in the token. So like Nike will get an invoice from talent, and then the platform will invoice them 15%. And that 15% is collected in cash, and then it's sent through a smart contract system that buys Braintrust tokens out of the open market and puts them in our DAO, refunds treasury, and then that treasury is used to pay our community for growing the network. We call this the connector program. And so connectors will go, anybody can go get a unique code, send it to talent or clients. And once those people start transacting on Braintrust, a percentage of that transaction volume is then sent as a bonus in the form of Braintrust token to whoever referred. So it's like an affiliate program on steroids, like powered by our Braintrust tokens. We have thousands of people, kind of active connectors right now, making these intros. This is why we don't have hundreds of employees. We have a very, very small team because the community is doing the work in exchange for ownership and control in the network. And so, and then we apply AI to that and like help connectors like figure out, hey, who's in my LinkedIn network that is a good person to connect to, right? So we've automated a bunch of that work as well.
That's incredible. And I definitely want to come back to that because there's just so much we could unpack with AI and everything you guys are doing there. But I think the first thing that comes to my mind is there's a lot of folks who are listening to Crypto 101 who are trying to break into the industry. There's some software developers that listen, there's some marketers, and there's a bunch of folks just that are just seeing, hey, could we help manage communities? and all that kind of stuff. And so, how might or can they leverage a platform like Braintrust, particularly? Or is this really just something that you guys are, selling to the enterprises, and it's just enterprises talking to enterprise? Or is there an angle where a Crypto 101 listener could actually utilize this?
Oh yeah, I mean, several different ways. So I mean, it's a you can almost think of it like a three-sided marketplace. So you have clients that need to hire talent, either full-time or contract. And it's global. You don't have to be in the US. It's most of our people are outside the US. And then talent that want work, right? So if you're a developer listening right now, go to braintrust.com and sign up and create your profile and be ready for when you see a gig or a job or something that you want. And then the third party of the marketplace would be the connector, who's earning rewards for taking 5 minutes to make an intro. So it's like 60% of the business on Braintrust comes from connectors. And so, we have salespeople who do this as a side hustle. I just did a podcast with this guy, Richard Chen, who runs a product manager school. And then when people graduate from his school, they go get like senior product manager or VP product jobs, and they need developers. So he's been using the Braintrust Connector program as like a side hustle for his PM. So there's lots of ways to get involved in a network like Braintrust and earn some tokens.
That's awesome. And hopefully land a job too. And
one of the ways, sorry, before I forget, one of the ways you can use these tokens. So most people kind of just collect them in their wallet. They don't sell them. Some people sell them, but it's like 85% or so hold them. But we just rolled out like a week ago. I don't think I've talked publicly about this yet. It's on our blog, but the ability to boost your application with Braintrust tokens. So we just rolled this out a few days ago. I've already had almost 100 people use it. But basically, you submit an application for a job, at Google or whatever. Google's a big employer on Braintrust. You can put it's like 39 Braintrust tokens or something. It's not very much. You can attach that to your application, and it puts you to the top and makes sure you got a better chance of getting a good look. So so you don't have to buy those tokens, right? Like we'd rather you refer people, earn the tokens, and then use them to boost, right? So it's kind of like a little flywheel effect in the ecosystem.
Totally.
When you're helping these Fortune 1000 companies that you mentioned earlier, do they know or maybe even care that blockchain tech is being used in the hiring process?
They don't know, and if they did, they might get mad at us. I mean, I'm being a little bit glib. I mean, it's like everyone hates crypto still is kind of the thing. Yeah. In the non-crypto world, right? We're in the crypto world. We love it. We know it's here for the long haul, but we're not through the hangover yet from SBF and all that bullshit. So it's the real answer is like it doesn't matter to clients. Like their first question is like, how do you have all this great talent and like how'd you grow to 1.1 or whatever million like enterprise grade talent? We say, well, because our economics are way better. We take no fees from talent, and we take a small like 10 to 15% from clients, depending. And so that means you make more of your hourly rate compared to competitive networks or consulting firms. And when you invite your friends or your old employers, you get ownership in the network through the token. So you're like a real part of the community, and that's a better value prop to talent, right? So better talent are just going to gravitate to us, and that's been true for 5 years. And they're like, "Wow, that's awesome. How do you organize all that?" Like, well, we have this blockchain token, and they're like, "Okay, I've heard enough.
Yeah,
sounds good."
But if you tell them like, we have AI. We got an AI system that's doing it all for us. They're like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, thumbs up. We're good to go."
Tell me more about this AI.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, and you'd think that maybe what's transpired here recently has might have changed their view of crypto, and that was going to be my next question. Is like what are these Fortune 1000 companies talking about when it comes to crypto, and what's their viewpoint on it? Because I would imagine that after everything that's happened with the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETFs and all this positive talks of adoption from political candidates now, and kind of straying away from this negative viewpoint of crypto, and then just seeing the entire crypto market recovering. I mean, Bitcoin hit new all-time highs. A lot of other cryptos are doing positively. In my viewpoint, that would help aid the argument and maybe even just the perspective of crypto. But do you feel that these companies feel the same way? Do you feel like they have seen it as a positive impact?
Well, look, it's a complicated topic because, as you guys know, right? Like crypto, it's like it doesn't lump into one category. It's like the internet, right? There's like
Yeah.
great things on the internet and terrible things on the internet, and it's the same as crypto. So the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF are excellent. It's excellent progress for the industry, and those are investment vehicles that have a certain like Bitcoin's now being positioned as one of the presidential candidates says it should be part of our strategic reserve in the treasury, which is a great idea. And that has nothing to do with altcoins, right? It has nothing to do with Ethereum either. So there's each one of these has a very different use case. The problem is, look, SBF just went to prison, right? So like that taste is not out of most people's mouths. And B, when your biggest news is like celebrity meme coins and fucking dog coins and stuff.
Iggy Azalea launched a coin.
I know,
that's
right?
the headline.
Yeah, she's what a national hero she is to our industry. Like nothing against her. That's great. If I were a celebrity, I'd do the same thing. But American enterprise doesn't care about any of that, right? It's meaningless. So businesses just care about like, can this startup solve a problem for me better than other companies? Yes or no? And I don't really care how, right? As long as it's simple and it scales. And so crypto, blockchain, user-owned networks. I'm obsessed with this stuff. I love it. I've been doing this for full time since 2016. It's just a new technology that powers a new business model, right? So I think those of us in the industry, kind of take it a little bit too seriously sometimes. You have to zoom out and be like, what problem is this solving for business, right?
Yeah, and I like what you said there. It's something that I say a lot is that, blockchain and crypto means many different things to many different people. It's like the internet. I mean, you have social applications, financial applications, supply chain applications, all sorts of different things. And so, outside of what you're building at Braintrust, I'm curious if there's one sort of really compelling use case that you see for blockchain technology broadly. Again, there was a couple examples, and maybe you could riff on one of those if you want. But is there anything that really kind of catches your eye?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the most original answer in the world, but I really think DeFi and on-chain derivatives are incredibly compelling. I love, what Robert's doing with Superstate, bringing interest-bearing assets in a compliant way on-chain, and I'm disclosure investor. What Uniswap has done is incredible. Aave, Compound, and then a lot of the new kind of on-chain derivatives. Like, I'm hoping we get an administration where there's regulatory frameworks for this stuff to exist. It's not just nope, sorry, it's all illegal. That's not the right answer, right? That answer sends it all offshore. And Dubai and Singapore are great places, but I live in California. I want it to be here. So I think the financial rails, turning DeFi is so compelling. But the other thing that's more niche and more leading edge that I still firmly believe is that user-owned marketplaces are going to grow faster and become more valuable than corporate-owned marketplaces. And I think the way I think about this is a spectrum. Like there's marketplaces that extract more value than they provide, and ones that provide as much or more value than they extract. I'll give examples of both. Like Airbnb provides more value than it extracts. It's a great service. It's worth the fee. You get insurance and trust and easy payments and reputation. And so I don't see like a blockchain Airbnb. You just don't need it, right? Same for Twitter and YouTube. Those are very minimal value extraction networks, and they're really, really strong network effects, right? So I don't see those being unseated anytime soon. I think Farcast is super cool. I think it's going to be a good kind of niche community place, but and it can exist next to Twitter, right? But I don't think it kills Twitter. On the other side, though, you have marketplaces that are extracting way more value than they're providing. And I would say all the last mile services fall into this category. Uber, DoorDash, Uber Eats. Like DoorDash is, by the way, like so much props to that team who built that business. Like what an incredibly complicated business. It's a great service, but it is extracting a ton of value. They're paying the dashers nothing. They're marking up the food. They charge a subscription fee to the diners. Like I eat at Jersey Mike's all the time, and it's like if I just go to Jersey Mike's, it's like 30-40% cheaper than you're getting on
Totally.
DoorDash. So, so look, you could see a user owned last mile network, right? Where the drivers own the network via a token, and then whoever wants their services, bids in, and the high bidder wins. And Braintrust is kind of a different version of that, just for knowledge workers, right? Like you make more money finding your client on Braintrust than you would working at a big consulting firm.
Yeah, no, the Uber Eats stuff, it became like part and parcel of my wife and I's life during the pandemic, right? And you really couldn't go anywhere, but you could still like order that kind of stuff. And then slowly but surely, the world started opening back up, and we were still like addicted to doing the Uber Eats stuff. But then we realized, like, oh my God, like this is actually like you said, like 30% more expensive than if we just got up and drove to the store that we can actually go to. And now that, like, inflation and the cost of living and all that stuff is you really feel it, and interest rates for everything. I mean, it's just, it seems like it's going to be a huge headwind to a business like DoorDash et al. And you're going to have a business model, because you don't get that sort of pandemic lockdown subsidy anymore, and you really have to fight for your users. And it's like, I don't think that those economics necessarily will scale. Whereas you'll have a last mile sort of user owned network like you described, that I think really will scale and really actually provide great pay to drivers, and a fair prices for users, because you don't have that middleman just making a nasty spread on the entire transaction. So I'm really excited
That's
for
right.
that.
The bigger the markup, the more value, the more value you're extracting without providing it back, the more ripe for disruption you are, right? So
Mhm.
that's why, like, we need more entrepreneurs in the blockchain space thinking about this. Find a very high margin network business, and then build the tokenized version of it and take market share by giving some of that margin back to the participants, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the big idea.
And I wrote a book called Crypto Revolution a few years ago, and we theorized in this, again, not like a super original thought, but it was like this. It was like, sometimes sometime in the future, people will own these self-driving vehicles that are all running on a like a user-owned sort of network, where now you could just basically, share a car, like me and Brendan and you, we go in on this car, and then it could go around and charge itself, and divvy out payments, one third, one third, one third, collect payments. It's going to be incredible, and I think this actually dovetails back into the AI stuff. I was listening to Tom Lee from Fundstrat, who's this legendary Wall Street analyst, and he was just talking about his base case for over the next decade or whatever, why he thinks stocks can just go to ungodly sort of numbers and stuff, because people are going to be able to leverage AI, enterprises are going to leverage AI, and the workforce is going to get completely decimated, essentially, in replacement for these robots. And so I kind of want to get your thoughts on, just like, again, you are super, super in touch with the labor market. You talk to heads of employment and all that kind of stuff. How are you viewing the future of the labor markets with AI kind of really breathing down all of our necks, and it's going to be here before you know it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really important topic, and I'll start with where we are now, and then try to make a guess about where we're going, which is
For
much
sure.
harder. But where we are now is, and we do talk to heads of HR, heads of recruiting, heads of talent acquisition at hundreds of the Fortune 1000 companies, and where they are now is many of them are still on a hiring freeze.
Mhm.
Many of them, this is a direct quote from one of them. I can't name them, but it's a big Fortune 1000. Is they're under mandate to cut something like 250,000 man hours using AI this
Wow.
year. And so you hear this like at the board level, at the C-suite level, these big companies. Okay, we're told AI is here and it's real. It's extremely noisy, but like, we're not hiring anybody. Figure out how to cut. We need to cut OpEx because our earnings are declining. Interest rates are still high, so we're not investing, we're not building out, not taking new risk. The economy is still largely risk off. And I mean, if you take the Mag 7 out of the S&P 500, S&P's down, right? So all the earnings are going to the pure tech plays. And so that leaves everyone else in decline, which ripples through to unemployment. And so where we are today is yeah, AI's like no one's figured it out yet, but people are under mandate to figure out how to cut OpEx using AI. And then where
Yeah.
we're going, God, I don't know. Like a year ago, I was saying I don't think AI net destroys jobs over the long term, but there'll be choppy waters in between, right? Like some jobs go away and other new jobs are born. Like prompt engineer. That wasn't nobody knew what that meant a year and a half ago, right? I'm not sure. Here's the concern I have is like if call center or customer support or recruiter, like if jobs like that start to get whittled down, are they going to be net replaced with more prompt engineers? I don't know. Like that's probably too narrow of a way to think about it. But I am concerned for the broader economy, broader society, that like the pace at which AI can automate some of these jobs may outpace the replacement level. So I don't know. This stuff is just like every month there's new developments, but it's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, what it sounds like is that these companies want to get higher profit margins, which can lead to better stock prices, better, earnings calls, stuff like that. But at the sake of lower employment across the US and a bunch of other places. And so that almost makes me wonder, like, can we have a weird scenario where the stock market is tearing while unemployment is skyrocketing? Because normally when we think of like a recession, it's like, oh, everyone's losing their job, the stock market's getting killed. But this almost seems like it can be a weird futuristic black swan event where the stock market can be running sky high because profits are as high as could be because not everyone, but a lot of people, a lot of jobs in the short term are getting replaced by AI. And if the numbers are that high, like, you're saying for some of these places, I mean, that could be something that like we've never really seen before because historically the two have been correlated,
That's
unemployment and the stock market prices. But yeah, I don't know. That just raises so many questions, right?
Yeah. I mean, so to soften this blow a little bit, like another angle to think about is the jobs that are going to be replaced by AI in the next, year or two are, it seems like, mostly jobs that have already been offshored. So you think about bookkeeping, research, admin, call center, customer support. If you look at a lot of those jobs, they have been outside of the US. They've been BPO,
Yeah.
business process outsource. So if AI is replacing those jobs, I mean, that still really sucks for those people, but you're not going to see that in US unemployment numbers, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's crazy. There's a lot that kind of goes into this, and I know the Federal Reserve has what they call the dual mandate, where they try and get price stability and they target some level of employment or something like that. I mean, how do they deal with this? Because this directly comes to bear on their federal mandate.
Yeah, it seems like an antiquated mandate to me, but
Good point.
the other thing to think about is the strength of the dollar, right? So a weak dollar can be good for American manufacturing, which is good for unemployment, but bad for inflation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Weak dollar means it costs more to buy stuff, depending on where it's made, I guess. But so I think there is, I've heard smart people argue both sides of this, but the balance the budget, stop the runaway inflation, all that stuff is sort of antithetical to some of the benefits of the weak dollar. It's an intellectual debate that I think is worth having now, and we're seeing it play out, I think, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. But I want to move on from AI and unemployment. I mean, it might come back to bear on this next question, but I want to talk about the hedge fund that you're a partner at, Cambrian Asset Management. What is Cambrian Asset Management? What's your guys' view on the crypto market? Are you guys only crypto? And kind of how are you guys trying to capitalize on this market?
Yeah, for sure. And just for clarity's sake, I'm a co-founder. I'm not a partner anymore, not
Okay.
day to day. Um, I co-founded it with two other guys who still actively run it, Jake Posner and Martin Green, really sharp investors. Um, so Cambrian has started out and still is a systematic strategy. So there's kinds of there's discretionary strategies, like venture and liquid, Polychain liquid fund, Pantera liquid fund, Pantera venture fund, Multicoin venture fund. They all those big boys have a venture and liquid that are discretionary, right? Long, short, whatever. Cambrian's unique in that it is systematic, almost like Bitwise. Bitwise has a bunch of kind of index products that are they rebalance quarterly or whatever it is. So Cambrian actually trades based on proprietary algorithms that they've developed and fine tuned over since 2018 really. And I'm a large LP in it, so I get to see the performance. It's performs great, but it's capturing the appreciation of the large assets, like maybe the top 4 or 5 assets in the digital market space, and it's only crypto, doesn't do anything else, and it does so in a really well risk adjusted way, right? So it's going to be a better from a risk management standpoint, better than just long Bitcoin or just long ETH, and so that's kind of how it's like a beta product basically, and they've
Cool.
done really well with that.
That's awesome. And so you're spending most of your time at Braintrust, not spending time on the hedge fund anymore. But I want to learn about your experience as an LP. Do you and an LP is a limited partner, a GP would be a general partner. So the general partner is the one who's owning and operating the hedge fund. The LP is the one who's investing in the hedge fund. Do you invest in many hedge funds, and kind of what is that like, especially as of late throughout the market volatility?
Yeah, so I'm in about 20 something funds. The majority of them are venture, maybe only 3 or 4 liquid hedge funds. So the difference being like venture funds are closed ended, they target an amount to raise, they're typically held over 10 years, and you get distributions as they realize exits. And so you're not really living, there's no daily or even monthly mark to market there, which is it's a good thing about being in VC. Hedge funds mark every day, and so their fees and their carry are based on what the market marks are. And look, yeah, it's extremely volatile. I do direct invest a bunch as well, but I have a day job. I don't have time to like take 15, 20 pitch meetings a week. I do deals
or
directly
sit
that
there
come
and
to
day
me.
trade, or
Oh, I
leverage
definitely don't do
trade.
that. All you need to do with day trading is get your ass handed to you once, and then hopefully you learn. Don't do
Yeah.
that anymore, right? And I did that in college when I lost money in the .com bust. I was day trading tech stocks on E-Trade. But so yeah, I don't trade at all. But the systematic funds like Cambrian do a much better job than people. And then, but yeah, it's been obviously a rough ride since 2021 and 2022. But look, these are long-term holdings for me. I deeply believe in the space. The liquid funds and venture funds I'm in have really solid theses. I spend a lot of time talking to managers before I deploy, and early stage, mid stage, late stage, liquid. I'm in all of them.
Yeah, I mean, between what you've done at Braintrust and Cambrian Asset Management and all the marketplaces that you founded and the 150 companies that you've invested in, and all of that, like, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned along the way that you can share with the listeners out there?
Well, a couple things. One, like you just have to take a long-term perspective, and I think that is something that is we're so short of. We're missing in crypto is like there's just the sentiment is so fickle. Pantera just published something. I think it was Paul a month or two ago saying like people who are able to wait for delay gratification for a larger reward, like there's like he did this graph. You should just type into Google for Pantera Paul and you'll see on his blog. And it was like crypto market participants have the lowest ability to wait for, to delay gratification because there's a lot of degens, a lot of day traders, and I think some of the fund managers act like this as well. And so, that's not a way to build value and to create enterprise value. And look at, being one of the co-founders of Braintrust and dealing with a lot of the funds we have many, many funds that hold Braintrust and some that think about it, and we talk to once in a while. And, so take a 10-year, 15-year time horizon, one. And two, when you're vetting founders and operators, like it's yeah, they gotta be smart, all right? But like that's kind of hard to judge right away. But what they really have to be is determined. They need that real like, I like the taste of chewing glass, because that's all this job is just getting kicked in the nuts thousands of times a year and loving the taste of your own blood. And like if a founder's not built for that, they shouldn't be venture backed. They should do something else.
Well, do you think that's the problem with a lot of investors, especially when it comes to the crypto market, is that they're looking for instant gratification and they take all these extreme routes to kind of get that? For some people, it's day trading. For some people, it's leverage. For some people, it's, who knows what. But like, would you say that like that's one of the big problems that investors run into here, and that they don't have that long-term approach? And maybe if they were a little bit more patient and they looked at the bird's eye perspective and they kind of zoomed out, do you think that that would help a lot of them?
Yeah, look, there's some great investors in crypto, and then there's ones that I think have this degenerative gambling problem, right? I mean, day trading and levering up on derivatives, like that's the same thing as going to a casino, as long as you're not playing poker, because poker's a skill game. It's the same thing as sitting at a craps table. There's no difference, and there's physiologically there's no difference either, right? You're chasing these dopamine hits, and that's not. I don't know. That's not how you build long-term value.
Yeah, it's no way to make a career, no way to make consistent long-term profits. Take the long-term view, set it and forget it, and you'll be right. You'll be just all right. Well, Adam, where can people kind of follow along on your journey? Are you big on X? Are you writing blogs every day? Where could people kind of go to kind of get plugged in as well with Braintrust?
Yeah, absolutely. So braintrust.com, sign up if you're a company that needs talent, or an engineer or designer looking for work. I'm on X at Adam Jackson SF. And also, I know this like a show what a dork I am, but we're pretty active on LinkedIn too. We have like 1 million followers there. So find me on LinkedIn.
I think that's very fitting for you though, and not because you're a dork. I don't think that, but you're you're in the hiring game, you're in the talent game. That's where all the talent is. That's where people are looking for jobs. So I would think it'd be pretty crazy if you weren't big on LinkedIn.
I mean, I am a dork. Thanks for saying that, but LinkedIn is where the enterprise is, and it's also kind of like it's like friendly Twitter, like you can have there's a lot of BS on, but like you can say something on there and like a army of trolls won't destroy you. So it's a nice place.
Yeah, there's no anons, right? Who can hide behind the keyboard. It's like you got all your references looking at you. You got your whole profile and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be civil, which is one of the nice aspects of LinkedIn. Well, hey, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody who listened, please go check out Braintrust. If you're looking for a job, definitely check out Braintrust. If you want to hire some incredible talent, do it. And if you just want to learn about the future of work, they've got some great resources. So thank you so much for listening. Adam, thank you for joining. And I'm sure we'll be speaking with you again sometime soon in the future.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Nice to chat.